Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Scoop Order, where money never sleeps and neither does Ryan Day trying to find coaches. Holy cow. Justin Frye is off to the Arizona Cardinals to reunite with Parrish Johnson and Marvin Harrison Jr. Baron Browning's out there. He's a free agent, but I mean, they've got a lot of Buckeyes out there. So congrats to Justin Frye moving to the desert with his family. He did a great job here. Did one of the greatest coaching jobs I've ever seen this past season. Won us a natty. So congrats, Justin. He joins Jim Knowles as two coaches that need to be replaced. And Ryan Day's got a short list. There's a huge defensive coordinator that's on the radar now, confirmed. We're going to ask Nevadabuck about what he's learned about that. It's a guy I think you guys would be really excited if we hired as defensive coordinator. We're also going to take your questions. Obviously, the Michigan stuff is percolating. Monster show on deck. A little Saturday matinee for you guys. So that being said, if you guys enjoy our content, which we know that you guys do, we thank you guys for a record-breaking January. The momentum is insane. There's no off season here, so we might take a day off here or there, but man, we're going 6-7 days a week, and we just appreciate you guys being a part of our show each and every day. So thank you for that. Again, if you enjoy our content, please leave us a like. Click that like button. That is huge for us. Also, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to Apple Podcasts. Again, keep growing that stuff. It's completely free. It's an easy way to say thank you to help us out. We just appreciate all of your support. And also click that alert bell in case we do happen to go early like we do today. We've got some stuff going on in our real life. So we decided to go a little early today on a Saturday to knock it out and get you guys some great content up for the day. So with that being said, I'm going to bring in Nevadabuck. You dropped a huge bomb today on a defensive coordinator name that I think a lot of people would be very excited about. A guy that from 2019 to 2023 led the nation in sacks, super pressure defense, a lot of havoc, a lot of big turnovers, like I said, negative plays, all the stuff that fan bases love. Very honestly similar to Jim Knowles, who was one of the nation's leading sack artists as a coordinator. Who is Ryan Day? Who did he talk to this week? And what do you think of the prospects?
Well, that name's the Pitt coordinator, Randy Bates, former OSU alum. And, or I guess you're always an OSU alum, but yeah, I mean, known for running the pressure packages, a guy that, he kind of coined the term havoc defense there. They were the guys that famously intercepted Kyle McCord, I believe, 5 times, including 3 pick sixes and a half or whatever it was. So, if Ryan is going for the, hey, I want pressure, I want negative plays, I'm willing to trade, possessions for negative plays, or if we give up quick scores, that's okay because that gives the ball back to our offense. If that's the guy that you want, which, as you rightly pointed out, that's frankly the reputation that Jim Knowles came in with. Jim Knowles was kind of that guy that led the nation in sacks at Oklahoma State, but that's who Bates is, and that's a guy that I know is on the radar, is a name that they've reached out to, that there's been mutual interest. Will there be a love connection, and will they kind of get this one over the goal line? Don't know. I think it's unknowable at this point. But older guy, so if you want a veteran in the room, if you want a guy that that Matt Greene, Matty G, and Coach Walt and Larry Johnson can all look up to as a veteran, experienced DC. This would be the guy. Would he come in and not bring anybody else with him? Would he come in and keep the staff? Would this keep James Laurinaitis there at line? I mean, well, that's yet to be seen. But I think it's a very interesting name that I think that there's some serious steam behind, and a guy that when you look deeper at, I think he fits the bill of what Ohio State's going for in a defensive coordinator. And, I think if you ask me gun to my head right now, he's probably my odds-on favorite. But, again, that's subject to change with new information, but certainly a name you should keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think when you're Ryan Day, you have to kind of look at the easy path is obviously promoting from within. And again, that might be the best path because I think you'd have more continuity potentially. But, you're also going to see Steve Sarkisian in week 1. So you're going to see a guy that you just beat, who I think is if he's not the best play caller in college football, he's in the top 3 or 4. I mean, every time we go against his scheme, he's always got, he gets us as much as we get him. And, Jim Knowles, was holding the final card, and, but they were right on the doorstep to tie the ball game. And, Jack Sawyer came off the edge and heroically killed Quinn Ewers and ran it back. And, but I mean, Steve Sarkisian, when he's calling plays, man, it's, do you want to have Matt Guerrieri as our making his debut as the Ohio State play caller versus Sark and Arch Manning? I don't know. Whoever it's going to be a new guy, but yeah, that's kind of where you're at. And I mean, Ryan's he's got to do diligence. Like, I don't think, I mean, Matt, he worked in the Woody for 2 years. Obviously took a year off when he went to Tulsa. I mean, Kevin Wilson thought enough of him to make him his defensive coordinator at Tulsa. And then he left Kevin after like 2 weeks and went to Indiana as their play calling DC. So does the 2 years with Ryan, including 1 year as an analyst, the first year, and last year as a safety coach, is that enough for Ryan to toss him the keys to his his defense? I mean, that's a big job, man. I mean, Ryan doesn't want to spend all the time over in that defensive staff room. He needs a guy that can run the show, and Jim Knowles was that. And Jim Knowles, like, there was no question who the big Indian was over there. And he was a guy that, again, Penn State ponied up and paid, broke the $3 million mark for a coordinator. And honestly, I'm sure they'll look at it probably like money well spent. I mean, Jim Knowles is a guy that I always go back to, and we've said this a lot of times, like, how good is a defensive coordinator? It's like, well, look at where our defense was from Schiano, Kerry Combs. I mean, it was an abject, a disaster. And then, and Halfley had the year in 19 where it was great just because I thought the talent was good. But 18 was rough. 19 was great. But then after that 2021 strike, that was brutal. And then Jim Knowles shows up for 22, 23, 24, and propels us into the national championship. Has the best defense in team history, in my opinion, this past season. So big shoes to fill. But yeah, Nevada, you get that information, and I was excited because Ryan, this isn't a gig where you can just interview Matt Guerrieri for an 8-hour day and then you name him the coordinator. Like, you got to go do your diligence on this thing, man, and say, hey, is there a different way to skin the cat? And maybe it could be someone that we haven't heard of, because again, I'm like you, Nevada, I watch as much football as any human on earth, but like, was I really familiar with Jim Knowles before he showed up on Ohio State's radar? Not really. I don't watch a lot of Big 12 football, and he wasn't the hot name in the SEC or the Big 10, so kind of unfamiliar. Where Bates is, I mean, he's a guy that was at Northwestern for a long time with Pat Fitzgerald, and they always were good on defense when we used to play them, and they were always undermanned too, so they weren't a team that had just guys all over the place, but they'd always play. They're physical and tough, and I think that he's a little bit more havoc-y, which isn't a word, but I'm going to make it a word, a little more havoc-y with Pitt, where, Narduzzi would take chances. Like when he was at Michigan State, he was always, they were always tough, and D'Antonio's defense is the same defense that we ran when we beat the Hurricanes. And it was pressure, and it was cover zero, and, they ran their, it's funny, their coverage was called Magic, and it was good. I mean, they used to run a lot of double A gap blitzes. That was like his signature thing that he loved to do against us, because I played against, I was with Dino or Mark D'Antonio in 03 when he was the DC. I was a freshman, and then we played against him in 04 when he went to Cincinnati. Then we played against him again in 06, smashed him, and then we played him in 07 when he was at Michigan State. So I've seen Dino a lot. I know what he likes to do. And that's, Narduzzi's from his tree. I mean, Narduzzi's Youngstown State guy too. So yeah, I like this. I think this will be interesting. Be interesting to see if any other names emerge. Because like, again, I'm sure Ryan's going to interview multiple people. This is even when something seems like a cinch, Ryan likes to do diligence. Like with James Laurinaitis last year, when everyone in the world thought he should be the linebackers coach and he should be promoted and he did a good job in recruiting, blah, blah, blah. Like, Ryan was still talking to people from UCLA that Chip liked, young guys, potential special teams coordinator. I mean, there was kind of this little, before they went unlimited coaches, there was that one spot, and Do we bring in a new special teams coordinator? Do we bring in something else? So I mean, Ryan likes to do some diligence. And again, a good thing about this is when you're Ryan and you can talk to, a few different coordinators, is you might have two or three that you like. It's kind of like, he's like on The Bachelor and there's like 5 girls he really likes, so he's got to pick the one that he likes the most. But for Ryan, like, this is a good process for him to figure out, hey, I'm in that, in the words of Nevadabuck, dynastic mode now. So this is a good time to kind of refill my bullpen of guys that, hey, if I hire Randy Bates and he does a great job and we win another national title and then he leaves to be a head coach somewhere, who are some other candidates that I talked to that I really were compelled by, because that's where we're at now. Because our step 2 to this process is we got Justin Frye heading to Arizona, which again, good on him. But I think that, Ryan has got to do some really, because when you're Ohio State, you got the number 1 defense, huge NIL budget, fantastic offense. Like, it's really fun to call a defense when you know that the offense is going to score 40 points every week. So Ryan's got to take advantage of this. And I mean, this is probably the best job in America right now, given the structure of the offense and the talent on the defense and Caleb Downs and everything else. So go after some big fish and take some big swings. Nevada, anything on that before we get into some offensive line goodness?
Well, yeah, I just think this is the next iteration and evolution in Ryan's kind of growth as a coach, and it's the best kind of growth. It's the growth that you have to go through when you win a national championship, because everybody poaches your coaches. There's no way that you're ever going to win a national championship in college and not lose a big part of your staff. And so for Ryan, it is about the bench strength. It is about having those next guys on the list. It's about, being ready to handle this. And this hasn't been unexpected for him. I mean, they knew this was going to happen. It happened. Gun to my head, I was asked if I thought Chip Kelly was leaving. I don't think Chip Kelly's going to leave, just because I just think it would be too much turmoil for Ohio State. And I don't think Chip wants to do that to Ohio State. And I think Ryan and him are too close. So, but, Justin Frye is literally the best man at his wedding, and he lost him. So this is just, hey, as an Ohio State fan, you just got to chalk it up to, we won the national title. This is kind of part of the process in terms of what's going on. And you see these jobs that these guys are getting right now. And it's, it's just, it's going to be interesting. It'll be an interesting, I think we'll learn a lot on Ryan Day in terms of, does he want to go internal? Where does he want to go with things? And now you've got the offensive line position next, and that's going to be the next big one. And that's the one where I think we go Drevno, but maybe we go outside on that one as well. So what do you think, Kirk? Where do you see ahead on this one?
I would bet a pretty large amount of money on Tim Drevno being promoted to being the full-time line coach. I mean, I know that he did a good job this year from the people I talked to that dealt with him, and he's a guy that, he's got, frankly, better credentials than Justin Frye. If you just stack them up between the two of them. I mean, he coached in a Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. He was Harbaugh's guy. I mean, that's the thing, is he was, when the Niners were really good on offense and they had the best offensive line in the league with Joe Staley and Anthony Davis and Mikey Potty, Alex Boone. Like, I mean, that was like 4 Pro Bowlers on the O-line. He was the guy. I mean, and those guys mauled. And when Harbaugh went to Michigan, he was their guy. I don't know what went sideways there, but something did. And then they ended up going to Ed Warner, which is fine. But I think that he's there was this photo. And sometimes you look at stuff and you think whatever, and but there was a photo. The team went to Hyde Park, and Hyde Park, obviously, big steakhouse in Columbus. And they had like the little victory celebration. And Ryan Day is sitting at a table, and it's like Keenan Bailey, Quinn Temple, and Tim Drevno. And I was like, and I saw that, and I was like, I wonder if Justin's gone. Like, and again, Justin doesn't have he didn't have a contract, so I mean, he was working on, a 1-year deal that expired, and obviously not getting renewed. He's going to the NFL, but I saw that photo, and it just. When a guy's he's an analyst and he's sitting with the head coach. And I'm not trying to put too much into this, but he's sitting with Keenan Bailey, he's sitting with Quinn Temple, and then there's Tim Drevno and Ryan Day. And Ryan Day is right next to Tim Drevno. And I think that they could see this coming. Again, I think that that's something where you can be brutally efficient as a head coach when you're Ryan Day, when you have a really good coaches that are out of work on your staff. And then when people transition out, you have guys that have basically been auditioning for the job already internal. Like Tim Drevno has been on like a 1 year, basically since Chip Kelly showed up. Tim Drevno did not get retained, obviously, by Deshaun Foster. And he brought in Juan Castillo, which was a disaster for his O-line coach. And he came right to Columbus, and he was here. He's working with us the first week of spring ball. Second week, I think Tim Drevno was here. And again, with that coaching role being lifted, where you can have infinite coaches, he was coaching this year, so he knows the technique. He was Chip Kelly's offensive line coach when Justin left and came to Ohio State. Chip needed a line coach, hired Drevno. Chip's obviously the OC here. Chip will have a heavy influence, obviously, in who the offensive line coach is going to be. I just can't see them going after Joe Rudolph or some of the sexy names out there, just because they already have Tim Drevno in here, and that was already Chip's line coach. And he's not some intern or GA or young guy. And he's a guy that he literally coached in a Super Bowl, and was about a foot away from winning the Super Bowl when they beat, it was Ray Lewis's last game when the 49ers played the Ravens. He was the line coach of that game. So I like him. I mean, those guys have always been good. Now, I think Jim Harbaugh is one of the best line coaches, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, everywhere he goes, his offensive lines are good, and they maul and they're tough. And that's one of his things where he invests a lot of resources in the O-line. But, Jim Harbaugh thought enough of Tim Drevno to hire him at San Francisco and hire him at Michigan. So, and I thought that our line, I don't think it was just the Justin Frye show that made our line great. I think that, him, Tim Drevno, and Mike Slaney did a great job. I mean, as good as I've ever seen in terms of losing 2 All-Americans and getting better somehow, which is crazy. But I don't know. Those guys did a great job of development. And I'd be stunned if it's not Tim Drevno. Now, there's the regular names, like Joe Rudolph's at Notre Dame, and he's the guy that I love to death. And he was a grad assistant when I was there, and fantastic coach. Notre Dame's line is really good. They were beat to crap, and they were really young this year, so they didn't look as good as they were the year before. But I mean, Joe Alt and some of those guys, you had Rudy, and they all liked Rudy. He'd be a fantastic hire. But I just don't know how you'd move on Tim Drevno when he's already in the building and the players know him and everything else. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, I think you just got to look at where we are in the process, because we're almost into February, by virtue of the fact that we, played so long this year. And so we're kind of late in the process in terms of, a lot of guys have gone to jobs and found jobs or been in jobs or whatever it is. So, this isn't mid-December, or this isn't even early January. This is kind of late. So I think, does it force your hand to kind of look internal on something like that? I mean, maybe it does. I mean, I know they're looking, casting a little wider net with the on the defensive thing with Bates in Pittsburgh. But is a guy like that available? Is he willing to leave another school to come here? Don't know, because you're not talking about a coordinator's job. You're talking about an offensive line job. So by definition, then, it's got to be somebody else that's in an offensive line job somewhere else. Probably not an NFL guy, unless he's a lower tier guy. So to me, it feels like defensive coordinator, you'll probably go external, but offensive line coach, I think it makes all the sense in the world for him to stay internal and do that. But Ryan's going to do what's best for him, and I think with as close as him and Justin have been, this has not been unexpected. This didn't catch him off guard. He had to know this was coming. And so he's had to kind of already get ready on his plan B. And so we'll see what starts popping up over the next few days.
Well, and the other thing is, you didn't have an extension. Now, I know Jim Knowles had an extension, but Justin's contract's expired. So there's, when you don't offer a guy a 2-year extension, then you got to make plans. But yeah, it's interesting because for Justin, you did a great job. And I totally get why he'd want to go get a taste of the NFL. I mean, he's never been in the NFL. Never played in the NFL. He started coaching like when I was drafted in the NFL after college. Like when he was done playing in Indiana, he went straight into coaching because he wasn't good enough to play in the NFL. Again, that's not a slight on Justin. It's just a fact. So for him to get that NFL stuff on his resume, I think is powerful. He wants to be a head coach, obviously, and I think that when you say that you've been in the league and you've coached at the highest level and all that jazz, it's good. And obviously he's coaching Paris, he's going to be the best player on that offensive line for the next 10 years. And Paris will get a huge extension, probably in a year, probably in 2 more years. But I don't know. Like the hardest part for me with the league is like, when you're attaching your name to Jonathan Gannon, and Jonathan Gannon's an Ignatius guy who played receiver at St. Ignatius. So he's an Ohio guy. I love for him to be great, but man, in the league, the quality of life is great. I was talking to Zach Smith about it a little bit, and it's like, you're off from January to April. Like there's no 6 a.m.s. There's no recruiting. There's no transfer portal. I mean, it's amazing, but problem is like, dude, like if Jonathan Gannon doesn't win this year, he's going to get fired. So it's like the ultimate like rent, don't buy, where it's like, if Justin would have extended here, I mean, you probably have a better, and again, like that's coaching. I mean, Ryan Day could go to the Philadelphia Eagles tomorrow and who knows, but that's just life in the business. So that's the worst part about football coaching is like, you never are going to set down roots ever, like ever. But especially in the NFL. In the NFL, it's like when you're a position coach, man, you are Willie Loman, man. You're on the road a lot, but I'm happy for Justin. Like, again, I think that, you knew that players and coaches, players, it's funny that national championship, man, it is such a magnifier to your value, your perceived value, whatever. Cause I feel like a lot of our kids that entered the transfer portal, kind of with that post, we're going to say through the playoff thing. It's like, they got nice bumps in pay. I mean, some of these guys like, they're like, we want you to be a leader of our team, and they transfer somewhere, and they're guys that didn't even play at Ohio State, but since they were on a national championship team, well, you're going to help us change the culture, you're going to help us lead, and and I mean, the guys didn't even play, which again, it's fine, but that's kind of the value. So like with Justin Frye coming off winning a national championship, it's hey, you're gonna bring that winning ways, championship culture, like whatever. To Arizona. Now he's just a line coach. I get that, but if we lose that game, is he as appealing to NFL teams? I mean, he interviewed with the Bears, and I'm sure he probably interviewed elsewhere. But I think that the chance to go coach Paris again, and again, Arizona is a beautiful place to live, and not that matters when you're coaching, but for your family, it's not bad. So yeah, it's gonna be here's some new faces in the Woody Hayes, and they got to restock that O-line room now, because they're gonna have a new GA and a new they're gonna have to have a number 2 O-line guy to work with Tim Drevno potentially, or whoever they hire. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, Ryan, this is what we talked about, like in terms of the dynasty and kind of spinning this thing up, man. Is you gotta replace a lot of guys, and there's gonna be a lot of these other guys that are gonna be desired. You start winning, man, and these college programs, these college athletic directors are like, well, I want Brian Hartline as my head coach, and I want Matt Guerrieri as my head coach, and I want, so it's going to be this like spinning deal. But yeah, with Randy Bates, I think it's going to be fascinating to see what other names emerge. As much as having co-coordinators with Tim Walton and Matt Guerrieri, I just think that you got to exhaust every solution before you go to that, because that's the easiest one, is to have those guys interview in the Woody and how would you run the show, and you got to have one of them as a play caller, because again, when you have co-offensive coordinators or co-defensive coordinators, one of them has to call it. I mean, one of them has to call the plays. I mean, you can say, yeah, we're co-owners, but somebody has to call the shots. It can't be, well, we're gonna fight in the booth and who gets to call it. So it'll be fascinating, Nevada. There's no off season around here at all. But yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. Where are you at, Nevada? Go ahead.
Well, I'm at hashtag bring back Barton for the offensive line coach. I think that's the thing You're talking about a culture, a proven track record, all former All-American, right there in Columbus, easy, knows the way, and that's where I'm at. I'm all in on bring back Barton. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's bring back Barton or LeChuck. Now, you know LeCharles better than anybody, or as well as anybody. Would he consider leaving all? I mean, the job's open now. You know, he's talked about wanting to get back, and I mean, would he want to do that? Would he want to give up his, whatever, however you would characterize that other career, developer, um, private coach, instruction, whatever it is, to be a head coach a line coach at Ohio State? Do you think he'd ever consider something like that?
Oh, absolutely. I think he'd come back in a heartbeat. If they
Really?
if they offered him, I mean, if they offered him what you think, I mean, you're talking $900,000 a year, probably
Yeah,
$900,000. I mean, this isn't, again, I laugh, but I mean, it's, up to $1 million a year even. I mean, you go get a big dog. I mean, that's the and again, like in 500 is still a lot of money, but like when Ed was here, I think he made like 450, maybe 500, and then but I don't think he ever touched 700. But now it's like, I mean, you look at these line coaches, they're making 900,000, $1 million. Like I think Flood, the guy from Texas, is making over $1 million. He's the OC too, but I think, I mean, he'd absolutely consider it. I mean, my God, it's like he lives in Cleveland now. His kids are there, and I mean, I think he'd consider it. Now the problem with that is has he done, and he's worker, he's played in the NFL and all that, but like, I don't know how he would be from a game planning standpoint. Now, again, Charles is one of the smartest players that's ever lived. I mean, he's a genius level football IQ guy, but he'd have to sit with Ryan and talk game planning and scheme and all that jazz. And Charles knows all that stuff, but like when you're scheming Texas versus scheming Michigan versus scheming, like breaking all that down, doing all the grunt work, like you could do that, but that's just a different world from teaching guys how to pass set and transform their bodies and doing the stuff that you do kind of in the kind of the personal training space that he's in right now. So and not to mention, like, the hours are just hellacious, and you got to go recruit, and you got to go talk to these kids that are dumb and they want money. And like I said, I think Justin, he took a lot of heat for something that I frankly, I don't think that he had any way of winning, because like the David Sanders recruitment is great because David Sanders went to Tennessee, they paid him like $2 million. Like our two tackles are going to start for us next year, Philip Daniels and Ethan Oneawa. Those guys combined aren't getting that much money, and they're both gonna start, and they both played college football. And Ethan would have been probably a 3rd round pick if he had came out in the NFL draft this year. So those are the quality of guys you can get for that kind of money in the portal. And again, those guys have proven they can play college football. Like David Sanders Jr., there's no guarantee he's gonna start next year. So again, I am like the official historian of offensive line recruiting and the dumbest human beings in the world getting upset about us losing out on guys. And there's some days I'll just be like laying in bed looking at the ceiling, and I wonder what's up with Samson Okunloa, because we did 10 podcasts on him talking about how big time tackle, and he wears tank tops, and he does kick sets in the park at night, and he's #1 tackle in the country, and he ends up going to Miami. And Samson Okunloa, as of like this week, was not in the projected 2 deep per some of the Miami writers, because he's just not doing anything. And he was like a 5-star, everybody would have been doing backflips and, knocking their wives up and naming their son Samson if you would have got him. But all of a sudden, like he can't play. He stinks. And Miami's not very good on the offensive line, and all of a sudden that kid can't play there. And you just paid him 7 figures. So, again, I would be, the fan base would hate me because I wouldn't. I mean, I would recruit the crap out of high school kids. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you got to go get especially when it's a year like this where you've got Sam Greer and you got Max from Avon. I mean, you got some big time tackles this year. Like, you got to go after and grab those kids. But I want 2 portal guys every year that are ballers. And one year it might be 2 tackles. One year it might be a guard and a tackle. One year it might be a guard and a center. One year it might be a tackle and a center. but I want two ballers in that portal every year. Like those are my super glue to seal the dam shut. You know, when we lose Josh Simmons early to the NFL, or we have guy portals out, a depth guy that we're developing portals somewhere to go make $1 million to play at Indiana or whatever. Like I want to take two portal guys. So again, if you say, Kirk, okay, you got $3 million for your line to allocate it to retention and to the transfer portal and to high school kids and whatever. Well, I'm like, well, I'm not giving $2 million of it to David Sanders. Like, screw that. Not for my livelihood. I'm gonna go get two guys in the portal that I know can play. They can play college football. They've proven it. They're fourth or fifth year guys, and they're older, and we'll get a year or two out of them, and they'll be good. Like Seth McLaughlin. Well, Seth McLaughlin shows up for 1 year, wins the Remington, wins the academic, was first team academic All-American. He was up for the academic Heisman. So he had it and wins the national title. And again, if he doesn't tear his Achilles, he's probably a second round pick. With the torn Achilles, probably gonna be a fourth or fifth round pick. But you know, like those are the guys I want. Go give me a Josh Simmons and a Seth McLaughlin, and then you plug it in with the guys that you recruited, like Donnie Jackson, who Stud actually recruited, Josh Frye, who Stud recruited, and then you know Austin Sowerville, Tigra, Luke Montgomery, who Justin and Stud recruited. I like it. Go get them all. I mean, but like I said, I can't get into paying a high school offensive lineman crazy money. Like I'll let Miami do that. I'll let Bama do that and Clemson, because it's not working out for any of them right now when they do that and the kid shows up and he sucks. So, you know, I would spend in the portal. And again, people say, oh, Kirk, you suck. You can't recruit. You don't call these guys and play NBA 2K with them all night. So you're lazy and dumb and stupid and can't Instagram message all day. But I'm telling you, like, that's the meta. You go after, because again, you can go pay JJ. You can pay JJ because out of high school, you know, when you get like some superstar running back or some superstar receiver, those guys are really easy to scout. They're really easy to pick out. You know, you don't have to be some wizard to say, wow, Jeremiah's going to be really good when he goes to college. Shows up, really damn good. He's worth every penny of the 7-figure deal that we gave him. But offensive linemen, no, I mean, there's just no way. I mean, I don't know how many offensive linemen, since I've been around Ohio State in the last 25 years, we haven't had a single one who walked in and just dominated as a freshman. We had, you know, guys that started, like Mike Brewster started as a freshman, in like middle of the season, took over, didn't dominate. You know, Michael Jordan, our Michael Jordan, who's still playing in the NFL, started as a freshman, but that was because, you know, he was going against Joel Hale, a nice kid, but he was a conversion from defensive tackle to offensive guard. It wasn't good enough to play here. So he started kind of out of necessity, but he didn't dominate. You know, so you're gonna pay that kind of money, you better pay it to a portal guy that's proven that he dominates at this level and wants to enhance his game and that type of thing. So Nevada, that was long, but I also I don't know, like that'd be my philosophy if I recruited the O-line, because again, I think that fans need to shift their perspective on what they're looking at and how they grade these guys. Because like again, Justin got killed for his recruiting, and I'm like, well, you know, I mean, do you really want to spend money on all these guys? And you know, he's playing scout team next year, because you give JJ that kind of money. He's starting, and he's a first team All-American, and JJ's already got a tree in the Grove through 1 year. You know, David Sanders Jr. might not start next year, and if he does, probably not any good. You know, I mean, you're gonna be on a bad team. Like you know, the kid from Bama, that big fat left tackle from Iowa, Caden Proctor, he stunk as a freshman. They put him out there, but he was terrible. Got destroyed by Texas. Didn't look good all year. So, you know, you pay all that money and you're going to have a guy out there and he's playing like a D-level starter. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got the Samson Okolona thing where he was coming from Massachusetts, and I was like, no, I'm not even sure how good he is. And he goes there and he's not very good. Well, it's like Michigan signed that guy from Kansas. And I'm like, who is this kid from Kansas? Everybody's, oh, he's a 5-star from Kansas. They got a 5. And I'm like, I don't even know how good this guy is. So, yeah, you know, I agree with you. I think development position, you need as much data as you can. The portal makes so much sense. And, you know, I've said this before, but for as much criticism as Frye and Stud got for recruiting, we sure were deep on the offensive line this year when we had to go 9 deep and still win a national championship, playing regular minutes for the 9th offensive lineman in our room. So I'm not really worried about offensive line depth. I think we've got the guys. I think scheme defeats all on top of all that. And I think you can always replenish in the portal as well. So just give me somebody who's, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, wants to get the job done, and Ohio State's going to be fine. And that's been my position on the offensive line for a very long time. In the height of withering criticism about that, about we're done, we can't recruit, it's gonna cost us. Well, we won the freaking national championship, so how much did it really cost us there? So can people finally admit that these concerns about the offensive line that have been literally, we've had the same conversations about offensive line depth for 2 decades, Kirk. It's been 20 years I've been hearing this. 20 years. And I keep waiting for it to catch up with us. And when we're really going to have to pay the rent, and we just won the freaking national championship with 3 season-ending injuries on the offensive line. Frankly, with Zen, even though it wasn't season-ending, it pretty much ended it for him, and we still won it all. So I think we can kind of kill that narrative once and people hate it when we bring up stuff like that. They're like, "What, Nevada? Why do you bring this stuff up?" And I'm like, because, dude, when you sit there and you take years of abuse about a particular thing, like Will Howard sucks, or Trey Henderson soft, or we don't have enough guys on the offensive line, and we're like, guys, we're going to be fine. No, Nevada, you're wrong. Like, all you want is like a simple acknowledgement of it. Hey, maybe we overreacted. Maybe we're being a little crazy on this issue here. But an offensive line, bring back Barton. If $1 million, you'd have to think about $1 million, Kirk Barton.
It's not gonna happen. You know that they're not gonna pay $1 million to a line coach at Ohio State. That what they're gonna pay. They're gonna pay some of these other guys. It'll be interesting. I think Tim Drevno will be the guy.
Bring back Barton.
I mean, I'd love Joe Rudolph. Yeah, it's funny. Every time you go on the rants about the stuff that you're right about, it's like I was thinking about the COVID threads too, because that was always a fun one. But we're not going to go down that road. but it's like there's just some people are just so sure about stuff that they're just so just impossibly wrong. Like not even an ounce of correctness when they're arguing stuff. And I'm just like,
we're all gonna die. We're all gonna no, we're not all gonna die. We're not all gonna die.
Oh. There's a lot of people that are gonna get scammed. But that's about it. It's like wow, we had 7 flu deaths this year. That's crazy. Because when you don't code it as the flu, then magically you get 100 times more money from all the government. No way. But no, it's like the line stuff is crazy because it's like every time we would lose one of these 5-star guys, Kenyatta Goodwin was my favorite because he was like a 6'7", 400-pound guy that lost 7. Like anytime a guy loses 70 pounds, he goes from 400 to 330. I'm like, you'll give that guy $1 million, put him on a college campus where there's Jimmy John's open till 3 a.m. and Waffle House and alcohol and weed and everything else that you go smoke some weed and go eat 7 pounds of hash browns at Waffle House. Like that guy that's a 400-pounder is going to be right back to 400 quick. And that kid. Again, I know that he had someone in his family had a health issue, dropped out, but he's out of football. Like he went to Kentucky and quit. He quit at Kentucky. He hit the transfer portal, goes to Florida for 2 minutes, and he finds out at Florida that he's got to run wind sprints down there too. Quits there, and now he's out of football. And again, when we didn't get that kid, it was the end of time. Oh my God, how are we going to function without Kenyatta Goodwin? How are we going to function without Samson Okunloa? And the fat kid from Colorado, Jordan Seat. Like Jordan Seat is gonna be terrible this year. He's got Juju Lewis as a freshman running around back there playing for Dion, and he's gonna, I don't know. I just give me the Luke Montgomerys and the Sirevels and the Carson Hinsmans and these tough kids, and then go get a couple kids out of the portal. Like our 2 tackles out of the portal are gonna be good players. Philip Daniel's gonna be good. Ethan's gonna be good at left tackle. I think that's gonna be perfect. Tim Drevno's got to get to work today, and like I said, with the continuity, because these guys got to start 6 a.m. workouts in like a week or two. I know they're going to give probably 2-3 weeks off to let their bodies heal and take a break mentally, but I mean, the downside to the national championship is the same thing that the Chiefs deal with every year they play in the Super Bowl. It's like, you don't get the same amount of rest as everybody else. And I'm not saying that everybody needs a big long break, but it's helpful. I mean, mentally, these kids by the end of that, the pressure and the stress and the everything else of that playoff run, man, these guys need some time away. I mean, these guys need to go, hit the city and go have some fun. And I'm sure that like the guys, like the Miami guys couldn't wait to get on a plane and get back down to Miami, Ennis and those guys. So that's just the new reality. But yeah, man, it never stops, man. I am super excited. I got a couple super chats. We will dig into these. Appreciate you guys joining us this afternoon. Daryl Schoen. Oh, Barger, that's way too big, but I apologize. Let me get that fixed a little bit. Daryl Schoen Barger, thanks for being an Ultra member. Appreciate you guys supporting Pay It Forward by being Ultra members. I appreciate you, my dude. Daryl says, love you guys. Appreciate you, my man. Love you too. I hope you're having a great day. You do an amazing job. Is there any real possibility of LaCharles, Nevada OH? I mean, I'm sure if Ryan Day reached out to LaCharles, he would listen. And I'm sure LaCharles would probably love to interview for this job because it is his alma mater and he loves his alma mater. And I mean, hell, last year he told me he'd go work there for free and help out and consult. I mean, he's right up 71, 2 hours away. So imagine what would happen if you paid him, and not only paid him, but paid him handsomely. So I'm sure he'd listen. Now, do I think that realistically he would come, at a minimum, I'd hire him to be, what Tim Drevno used to be. But does he want to do that every day? I mean, is it, because like once you're in the game, man, it ain't for the faint of heart. And I'm not saying LaCharles ain't whatever, but it's like, it's a grind, man. I mean, recruiting and everything else. Like that's the thing that, when Justin Frye gets to the NFL, he's going to figure out real quick that life is way better in the NFL than it is in college. Way better. Like you don't see your players till like March, April. I mean, with the new CBA that they did in 2011, I know they pushed it back. It used to be kind of that late February, early March, but I think it's even later now. I think it might be early April when all the guys come back. So like for 4 months, man, you're off. And that's what these guys that leave Ohio State and they go to the NFL, they're like, damn, we're off for 3 straight months. Like not a single, there's no classes, there's no 6 a.m. workouts, there's no winter conditioning, there's nothing. So it's lovely. I'm telling you, like when my first offseason, I was a rookie in the NFL, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I wake up whenever I want, go hit the gym for 2.5 hours, get a good workout in, grab some lunch and head home and chill, and let the body heal and maybe go get another workout in, run a little bit at night. Like it's awesome. So I loved it. Nevada, we talked about LaCharles. Do I think it'll happen? No. Do I think that LaCharles would be interested? Yeah. Do I think it would be worth Ryan interviewing LaCharles? Yeah, absolutely. But that's up to him. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I would put it into the category of unlikely, but certainly. And let's put it this way: if you could motivate LaCharles to do the job and put up with all the other stuff that kind of goes along with it, do I think he'd be good at the job? I think he'd be unbelievable at the job. I think I think he'd be one of the great recruiters in the game right off the bat. He'd be Brian Hartline to offensive line recruiting. That's if you got him fully focused on the task and giving up everything else, and that would be the real sell job for Ryan. And it'd be tough because it goes beyond money. It's about lifestyle and everything. Because LaCharles has got a lot of money, so it's not just about money for him. It's about quality of life, and if you could make that all work, yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, and he's a guy that, he's had his hand in. The offensive line coach at Oregon is his guy. He's the guy that LaCharles kind of handpicked and told Dan Lanning he had him. And LaCharles, it's funny because 2 of the teams that made the playoffs that had good seasons were Oregon and Arizona State, and he's very, very influential and has great ties to both those head coaches, and they get a lot of linemen. And Arizona State's offensive line is really good this year. I was surprised when I watched them against Texas how good they were. But I think from a recruiting standpoint, I think LaCharles would be very, very good. Again, you get the minority thing going there too, which again, that's not it's nothing other than the truth. I mean, and again, there's just not many black line coaches in the game, so I think that'd be a distinct advantage, and I think that would help, especially you go down to the South, and the Charles guy's razor sharp, smart, one of the best, probably it'd be the best biomechanical offensive line trainer you could ever hire. The guy just does so much trial and error. Has developed equipment to address inefficiencies for offensive linemen. I mean, he's like that guy. He finds problems, then he creates solutions, and he sells them and makes a bunch of money off it. So, but he's just really good at what he does. And again, we've got a great interview where I interviewed LaCharles probably in like August. So if you get on our YouTube and type in Buckeye Scoop LaCharles Bentley, you can go back and check it out. But it'd be very interesting to see his thoughts, because again, I think he's a guy that if I was Ryan, I would at least interview him, and just hey, what would your vision be? And no, but like I said, it's a risky play, because that's the thing, is like, to hire somebody who's never coached at a collegiate level for a place like Ohio State would be different, just because you need your line coach to be. I mean, he's gonna be the biggest hire you make on offense, and to have a guy that will show me what you do in the running game, show me what you do in the passing game. Generally, you put your film on. Joe Rudolph could put up Notre Dame's film and show him versus Ohio State and Texas A&M and everything else, and that's something LaCharles doesn't have, because he's never coached at a major level. He coached at St. Ignatius this year, but it's not the same as in college. So that'd be a deficiency, and I'm not saying that'd be a tough sell, but it'd probably be a tough sell, especially if we don't come out of the great smoking versus Texas. I'm not saying we couldn't, but that's part of the thing where you get a lot of these guys, and that's why like James Laurinaitis has to come in and be a QC and do some of the grunt work. And I'm not sure if LaCharles would want to do that. I'm sure he'd want to be the line coach, but do you want to come in and make a lesser salary and work 80 hours a week and recruit and do grunt work and that type of thing? So I don't know, but again, I think he'd be a great line coach. I think he'd be a great hire, but if I was Ryan, I'd interview him, but I don't think he will. I think he'll go with Tim Drevno, but I'd interview a handful of line coaches, just because again, he has to replenish that bullpen, man. You have to have him come in. Like I remember when Urban interviewed Tom Herman, he interviewed Paul Petrino. He had a stack of resumes in his mailbox that were this thick, and I was Jay Paterno wanted to interview, and Trooper Taylor, and like some of the the luminaries of college football, they all had their resumes sent in, and I was reading through them, and it doesn't hurt to just kind of build that, because some guys will bomb, and again, just because you bomb an interview doesn't mean you're not going to be great. I mean, Mike Vrabel, again, famously, Urban Meyer said it was the worst interview he's ever seen, ever had, whatever. And Mike Vrabel's really, really razor sharp and cerebral and confident, and he's got the look and all the other stuff. And hell, he ends up being the coach of the year in the NFL. Then he gets fired. Then he ends up with his, probably NFL dream job working for for Robert Kraft. So, yeah, I would get a bunch of these guys in here to interview. Local, thank you for the 5. Yes, Nevada, Kirk for O-line. Day 3 of the petition is going good. I'm getting a lot of signatures. I know one thing, I would dominate recruiting. There's no doubt. I mean, I'd run circles around these line coaches because that's just what I do. I'd dominate recruiting, and I would be a hellacious NIL fundraiser, because I'd be like Heartline, because Brian, when he sells Ohio State, he's actually played at Ohio State, he's lived at Ohio State, he says the same little spiel, and James can say the same thing. So I mean, that's you don't always need a former player, but if the stars align and the talent is there and the charisma is there, and you can speak to the parents, and obviously, now I'm not stupid. The money is obviously paramount, but if you have the money, which Ohio State does, and then you've got the relationships, and you can kind of speak to what everything's done for you, then I think it helps close it, and it's a lot more authentic than if you're someone, again, and Justin Frye, good guy, but he played at Indiana, never played in the league, was a very average player at Indiana. Again, it doesn't matter, because I mean, he did a fantastic job coaching this line, but there's gonna be a different level when you got a guy like LaCharles or myself, or somebody who's actually played at Ohio State and knows the culture of the program and knows the former players and knows kind of what makes the school tick. It's a different level. Nevada, your thoughts again. This is hilarious. There's a day three of the petition to make me the line coach. That'd be hilarious because you'd be stuck with Funky as your co-host, and that'd probably take off like a rocket ship.
Yeah, bring back Barton. I mean, it rings. It comes right off
BBB
the BBB. Bring back Barton, and I can see you out
hashtag.
there playing Madden with all the guys, with all the kids. They're
Oh yeah,
having
yeah.
your little virtual characters, the
Playing
little
Roblox with all the guys like my kid does all day.
exactly.
Like Roblox and
You're
Minecraft.
cool. You're young. You're contemporary. I see that, man. I think it's perfect for you, man.
Get my gallery department hoodie like Brandon Ennis and those guys. Get some big giant Louis Vuitton sunglasses on that have like diamonds on the side, like our little NIL models do. It'd be good.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
Good for the culture, Nevada.
Yes,
All right.
indeed.
I know you're on a crunch, so let's wrap this thing up. Great Saturday afternoon update. What are your thoughts of that? Oh, we got one more.
Yeah.
One more.
Oh, let's do it.
Daryl's back. Appreciate you, my dude. Daryl Sean Barger, thank you for being Ultra member, and I appreciate you again. Thank you for the 10. Who do you think are the leaders for the open coaching positions, and how long do you think Coach Day will take to get this done? What in your mind is the cutoff to get this done to solidify? If you put a gun to my head, I think it's going to be the chalky picks of Matt Guerrieri and also Tim Drevno. That would be my pick today. But I think he's got to listen to what Randy Bates has to say. I'd love to see Randy Bates, a guy who's an Ohio State alum. He's ran a very sophisticated defense. But now again, I say all that, and you look at some of the scores from last year, and must not have been too hard to crack. But when they're cooking, they're good. No, when they're not cooking, it ain't good. And again, I don't know how talented they were. Injuries. I don't know much about Pitt defense, but I know when like Jim Knowles came over, like his stuff was sparkling. So, but it'd be good to explain the philosophy and pressure packages and everything else, and how he enhanced the defense. Excuse me, but. I think that this gets done in the next 2 weeks. I mean, you're so far behind when you play in this championship game. Like you can't wait that long. But we also had Bill O'Brien leave after like a month, and Chip Kelly showed up. So, I mean, that's the thing is like, it's the timelines are all out of whack. But like I imagine Justin Frye probably wishes he had gotten hired, a week ago, so he could have gone to the Senior Bowl and worn his little Arizona Cardinals hoodie and walked around and watched the offensive line work out and all that, because every other NFL offensive line coach is down there scouting the O linemen, and he's got to get ready to go to the combine in a couple weeks now, so it's a whole different schedule and world when all of a sudden this is where you're at. Nevada, who do you think are the leaders for the open coaching positions, and when do you think is the cutoff to get this done?
I mean, I agree. I think it's got to be Valentine's Day. I think it's got to be 2 weeks. You've got to get this stuff done. And I'm going to be a little different, and I'm going to make Bates my leader for the DC job. I mean, I think it's kind of serendipity. You talked about, how the Pitt defense was kind of up and down, the 81st in defense or whatever it was. Obviously higher in turnovers. Jim Knowles was 81st at Oklahoma State as well. Coincidence? Maybe not. You see what you can do with better talent, playing a more aggressive scheme. So I'm going to go Bates and Drevno as my favorites. Considering that the Barton petition is just picking up steam right now, I may reserve the right in a couple of days to change my mind to put Barton in there as the leader in the clubhouse for the offensive line position. But I'm going to go Bates and Drevno. Final answer as of January 31st.
I like it. That's good. It'd be interesting. I think the fan base, they always I think there's always this thing where you always want what you don't have. So I think that people would be excited about Bates, especially because he turned Kyle McCord over 5 times and 3 pick sixes, and that'd be the game that'll be running on the highlight reels when you announce him. Because Kyle's probably going to be a second round pick in the draft, and this is what this guy did to him. The best quarterback he saw here turned him into just beat him like a pinata. So hey, that's the game that Kyle's going to have to answer for when he goes and talks to all these NFL folks. So that being said, all right, Nevada, let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
No, just interesting. Yeah, now we have 2 positions to fill. It's just constantly changing here on the offseason for Ohio State. But just whenever you get nervous about that Ohio State fan, just remember we're the national champs. We're returning a loaded lineup as well. No reason we can't run it back. And Vegas has this as one of the top 3 teams for next year. So I really do have full confidence Ryan's going to do a great job hiring it. And I look at this as an opportunity to upgrade. So no reason we can't be better in the future.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you. With that being said, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for a fantastic show on the Saturday afternoon. Again, we had to knock some stuff out. Nevada is going to watch his kid play a little hockey, so we went a little early today. But I appreciate all of you guys, and I apologize if you guys didn't get to watch the live show. We'll be back again at 7 tomorrow to get this thing cranked up. So again, I appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate all that you guys do. If you guys want to do something awesome for me this weekend, please subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts. Please have your friends do it, your kids, anybody that's got a device. It helps us. Leave us a 5-star review. Again, it's something that's very simple, very easy to do. You just click on the Apple Podcast app on your phone, type in Buckeye Scoop, click subscribe, click follow. It's the easiest thing in the world to do, and it helps us out tremendously. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. See if we get any more traction on this DC. And if you guys want all the latest on what's going on in this coaching search, you got to join BuckeyeScoop.com because we're breaking stuff left and right. We're getting a lot of good intel right now. So join our message board because that's where I'm heading to right after the show. So you guys have a great rest of your night. Appreciate you guys. Go Bucks.